There once were four pirates named Bradley, Willer, Joe, and Tyler. They had fame, power, and podcasts beyond your wildest dreams. Before they hung them from the gallows, these were the final words they said. Our good takes are yours for the taking, but you'll have to listen to them first. We left everything we own and rode Poneglyph. Ever since, listeners from all over the world tune in to the Grand Line, listening to Road Poneglyph, the podcast that would make their dreams come true.
Welcome back to the Road Poneglyph with your host Willer, but your real host Bradley.
Yeah, and I'm sorry for people who've been doing dances trying to get this show to come back.
It was only a week. I checked our thing. It said a week ago. That's when the episode came out.
Yeah, but that's because I put that episode like a week or two after the other.
Yeah, it's just been a busy week for, I think, everybody. A lot of traveling, a lot of applying for jobs.
Lots of depression.
Dating, friends, love, war, sickness, so...
Health.
But we're back.
Breaks are good. But you know what else is good? Robin.
This is volume 37, titled... What is it titled?
Tom.
Ooh,
for Uncle Tom.
No.
Yeah, so where we left off last week was Luffy and Polly were like, hey, let's go save Iceberg. And, you know, we found out that pretty much all of Polly and Iceberg's closest friends were traitors working for CP9.
You hate to see it.
Gotta hurt. And
they're not working for CP9. They are CP9.
Yeah, they are CP9. And so this volume starts off at chapter 347. We're just picking up right where we left off. Luffy storms into the room, which the panel at the end of the last volume where he breaks the wall down was pretty badass. Mm-hmm. And Luffy is immediately like, you know, I'm here for Robin. Fuck all these other guys. You know, he's like, Robin, I found you. Because, you know, this is what he's been looking for. So, and, you know, it's kind of what we've been waiting for, too. We've been waiting for Luffy to catch back with Robin, considering the allegations going around.
Mm-hmm.
We also get to see the CP9 martial arts here, which are kind of fucking terrifying because they can just like poke you and kill you as if you were shot with a gun.
The 6 powers, or as you will see them, Rokushiki, I believe, is the Japanese translation. Let's go over them all real quick. There's Finger Gun, where you can poke someone to death. There's Iron Body, where your body becomes tough and your defense goes up, basically. There's, I believe it's called Moonwalk, where you can air jump infinitely. There's Paper Move. What is that? How it's translated? Where you can wiggle around and just pretty much dodge moves.
It's being the leaf, you know. It's
okay. There's Storm Leg, which is the projectile kick that they can do, and there's
They call it Tempest Kick in the
Tempest Kick. And then there's... What am I missing? There's one more.
Oh, fuck.
Storm Leg, multiple jumps, paper move, fingering, Iron Body. Uh-oh.
It's an important one, too, because it literally was in my head.
Shave. Soul Root.
Shave,
move really fast. All right, we got them all.
6 powers in the comments.
And Bradley, they've actually shown all of these powers in the previous volume, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, like, you see them do these things, and you're like, what the fuck's going on? And now they kind of delineate, like, hey, we have this special martial art, and here's our abilities, which is pretty cool.
So I have kind of, like, one problem with this chapter, and it might be in the next chapter, is, like, this is a bit too, like... I mean, it's also One Piece, but it's also really kind of cartoon villainous because they have a monologue explaining their fucking powers to them. But, like, at the same time, you're never going to get that chance, really, so it might as well just happen. It's just, like, it's of all the times to do it, in the middle of a building that's about to explode, with a riot going on basically outside, just kind of seems like the weirdest time to have this, like, explanation of their power system.
They're pretty confident, and really they only use like 4 bubbles to explain it, and then they show it with a couple of moves.
Obviously, it's like Dragon Ball Z, where all of this is actually taking place in about 3 seconds.
Obviously.
They're talking really fast.
Yes.
So my favorite part of this chapter right here, is, you know, they're talking to Robin like, hey, you need to come back with us. Chopper's like, I don't get why you can't come with us. And Robin responds by saying, so Chopper just says, why, Robin? Like, why? Robin says, to make my wish come true. If I stay with you people, this wish will never be fulfilled. And so I thought this, I really liked this for a few reasons. We just came from the Skypiea arc.
Yeah.
In the beginning of this arc where they're in Mock Town and kind of throughout it, a lot of it is about making dreams come true and the value of chasing those dreams. And because like it's like, oh, you should, you know, never give up on your dream. It's not like, if that's what you live for, you need to go for it. And it was very great during Skypiea because everybody was kind of united on one goal on our crew. But the problem here is what happens when two of our main characters, when two of the Straw Hats now have dreams that are incompatible.
Yeah.
You still need to both fight for everything for that dream.
It's cool because at the offset, when you're introducing a series where we're going to have all these pirates that are together under Luffy, but they all are big dreamers, what happens when those dreams clash? And you hope that eventually we get to it. And now we have Usopp and Luffy and Robin clashing with each other in different ways.
Yeah, and Luffy even says, we are fighting dreamer.
I miss this.
Yeah, I don't know, I really like that line because it's taking, you know, the values of the last arc in presenting a situation where it's like, oh fuck, maybe this is a problem.
Maybe it won't work.
Yeah, it's just it's really cool and really heartbreaking.
This volume artwork is gorgeous, by the way.
Oh yeah. And so kind of later, whenever CP9 and Robin are trying to take their leave, and Zoro is standing there, and we've always kind of hit on how he never had 100% trust for Robin, and he's the one who's kind of talking to Luffy. He's like, yeah, you know, our friend Nico Robin has clearly chosen her side. He's like, now do you understand why she left the ship? And, you know, Luffy is just here like, you know, I don't buy it. He's like, no. He's you know, he's probably angry and confused. For Zoro, this is like, I mean, he always maybe suspected this was coming. And I think both of these are the reactions we could have expected from these characters.
Yeah, I mean, Zoro had a similar reaction with Usopp, where he drew the line in the sand, and he's the one who urges Luffy to stick by it as hard as it is.
Yeah, so, I don't know, there's a lot of heartbreak going on here. And that brings us into chapter 348, Fighting Power.
I thought you were going to say Fighting Dreamers.
I thought so too.
I was like, my tongue muscle memory was about to say it. So this chapter is kind of a lot of battling, showing more of the powers of the CP9. Zoro gets some action here, Luffy gets some action. And you know, there's some taunting between all the characters. I don't know if there's a ton to say for this chapter. It really is mostly fighting.
I'll say that this is also making clear, two of them here, Blueno and Lucci, are showing devil fruits on top of having their 6 powers, so you can still have a devil fruit and also know this martial art, which is a deadly combo.
Yeah, especially
Blueno's was that door fruit where you can make doors.
Door.
Yeah, because like even just this martial art alone is enough to take on most people. And we've seen how far above most normal people that devil fruit users are.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the Kaku reconfirming the marriage condition, like in the heat of battle?
Yeah, so that was devastating because so Oda is very good, I think, at knowing and anticipating what his readers are thinking at any given moment. Because like a page or two before this confirmation, I was like, oh, so you know, if these guys were bad guys all along, and maybe, you know, they kind of head out for the Straw Hats, you know, maybe he wasn't totally honest. And Kaku's like, and you can tell that I think you can just tell he's being honest. He's like, look, I'm just gonna give it to you straight. I was being honest in my assessment.
You get the sense that they're serious about their jobs, which is cool.
Yeah,
They're fake jobs.
Because even as someone who works for the world government, Kaku has a very different air about him than Lucci. Like, Lucci, I think, can be kind of a mean person, obviously.
Yeah. Kaku still seems like he has some humanity, while Lucci's just like business.
Yeah, I think Lucci, on some level, enjoys being this person who's, dominating everyone.
Hold on to that thought.
He's just doing this because he has to. It's his job.
Yeah, hold on to these thoughts. These are good thoughts.
Yeah. These are good thoughts. So another thing about this is I find that I really found interesting when I was reading this chapter for the first time and the second time is that we're not introduced to these traders in a way that would let us know their rankings within the rank. Like when we're introduced to Lucci, he just kind of seems like the side character in the group of friends here.
Yeah.
Right? He's not like portrayed as like, oh, the leader of the group. That's more Kaku or Polly or something.
It's Polly, yeah.
So I just think it's very interesting that like Oda, it's a small thing that Oda added to make sure not to like do a one-to-one connect to all of these foes and made it seem more natural of like where they lied within that company. And they did, yeah.
It's clear from dialogue too that you could tell Lucci runs the show. Like they all listen to him more than he listens to them, for example.
Yeah.
So that will bring us into chapter 349, and right off the bat, we get something kind of cool here. We get to see Lucci's cat fruit and
leopard.
Yeah, and so he turns into this like really just hulking leopard beast, and immediately I was like, wow, this looks like one of the stronger Zoan fruits I've seen. And we get to learn a little bit more about Zoan fruits, where there's this attribute to these kind of devil fruits that the other two don't have. You can train your Zoan fruit power to get stronger. And when you think about it, it kind of makes sense, because a Zoan fruit is all about your body. It's still kind of going to be your muscles. So I think it makes sense that, you'd be able to train these muscles of your new form, because like, for like other powers, like fire is fire.
Yeah.
I mean, but
let me remind you though that Crocodile brings up that he's so good at doing the things he does because he has trained his Logia fruit.
But I think
he
that's
unlocked
more
the ability to
instinct. He like trained his mind, but not the power itself.
Yeah,
he unlocked the ability to use his right hand to dry stuff up. That's not turning into sand. That's an ability he unlocked. I think
that's less of the ability becoming more powerful and more of you kind of gaining more control of the ability. That's good. That'll come up later in another arc, very, very, very later, for ability we already know, Willer, of a character.
Cool, Joe.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Like, I'm saying that he is right that like aggressively and physically, the power doesn't get more powerful. It's just the user becomes more aware of what they can do with that ability.
And let's not forget that Chopper is in the crew, and Chopper has proved that you can hack your fruit.
Yeah.
Chopper has found a way to hack his fruit to go above 3 transformations. So
Chopper says this is to go even further beyond.
Indeed. Yeah. So Zoans have a lot more room to grow than you would immediately think.
Yeah,
they have a much more biological tie than I think like a superhero tie compared to like Paramecias or Logia fruits.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like laser vision is always going to be laser vision. That's not a muscle you train, but you
can eventually like control how that laser is going to be, but it's not going to get stronger or weaker.
Yeah, and one reason I really like this is because one worry I had for Chopper was that like Usopp, eventually he might get to a point where the other crew members are just so far and beyond him that he would never be able to contribute. In this, without explicitly saying it, is kind of giving us hope. Like Chopper is not at his full potential here. Like we can still go somewhere with him.
Nope.
So that's really cool. So I like the way Oda does that.
Yeah, that is a cool connection to me.
So like overall, just and like whenever I thought about the 3 categories of devil fruits, Zoan fruits always up till now just struck me as the weakest category. Now I don't know if that's the case. Like, there's a whole new depth to them, and I don't know. Like, I want to know what the like most powerful Zoan users are like. They could be
so Zoan, it's cool that we're getting a Zoan villain too. This is our first Zoan villain.
Yeah.
And it's cool. It's like, well, turning into a leopard isn't flashy, but wait, he has 6 powers. So it's cool because he has forms and he has got flashy attacks. It's a good mix. But also, I want to bring up the carnivorous Zoan idea, where carnivorous Zoans can be more aggressive by nature. Chaka is the other carnivorous Zoan that we've met. And if you recall, when Chaka from Alabasta transforms into his jackal form, he seemed to be more aggressive, where he attacks Crocodile regardless of the fact that he can turn into sand. So I feel like that's a connection that holds true even with Chaka, who we saw in the past.
So yeah, Zoan fruits, they're pretty badass. The next interesting thing in this chapter comes a few pages later, where Polly, you know, picks up Iceberg because he wants to get his boss out of there, and you know, he's confronted with all of his old friends, and he says, deep down inside, I feel like we're still comrades. And he's yelling it, and he's hurt, and there's tears in his eyes. And you know, this is a parallel, and it's not necessarily a subtle parallel, that Polly's going through the same thing that the Straw Hats are going, where, you know, these people have split off from his team, so to speak, and to him, you know, nothing has changed. Like, he feels like they're still comrades. He just doesn't understand why they're doing this. And, you know, to the Straw Hats, we've seen that they still love Usopp and consider him a friend, because, you know, they try to warn him about the Laguna, they check up on him, so it just feels really similar. I like it.
I love the line, the feeling's not mutual, and then he just goes for a kill shot.
Yeah. I feel like it's often that Oda, you know, finds a chance to make a character that we met this arc go through kind of a parallel story to what the Straw Hats are doing, because they did it with Oda did it in Skypiea, the whole flashback with Noland and Calgara. It was very similar to the battle that was going on in modern day. So
holy fuck, this panel where Lucci finger pistols through Luffy looks insane.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god.
Like, I was really scared there. I was like, oh fuck.
Luffy
like,
dead.
And then he just yeets him.
Yeah, like, being able to get through Luffy's body, even with a sharp object, is kind of impressive. Because he's a tough boy. So there's another panel. They kind of finish up their fight. They set fire to the building, stuff like that. And there's this like 2.5, like I don't know, like 2-page spread where all the CP9 members are standing there in front of the burning building, and they're like, no ordinary citizen can defy the will of the world government.
This panel is divine, man. This looks so good.
You know, over the course of the story, Joe's asked my opinion about the Navy and different factions and the world government. I think when I see this panel, I'm like, the way this is structured is intentionally trying to make you view the world government as bad guys. I'm sure there are good eggs in the world government. As of right now, I'm like, fuck those guys.
I mean, we have the CIA and other secret these are the secret organizations that are doing dirty shit.
Yeah, they make the explicit point of saying they are unknown to even like the other cipher polls, I believe. Yeah, and that they do everything.
Which is a plot hole later in this volume. But we'll pick it up.
And then on that same page, right after the burning building, we see Lucci. You know, he's discovered where the blueprints for the Pluton may actually be, with Tom's other disciple, Frankie, whose original name is
Clam.
So I'm like, oh fuck, Frankie's a big deal. Which I think we actually learned that Frankie was. Did we learn Frankie was Tom's disciple at the end of the last volume, or was it this?
We learned that they worked together because all of their signatures were on the fake blueprints that Iceberg was using. Right. Not fake, but like not the ones that they were looking for.
Okay. So the next chapter, chapter 350, the warehouse under the bridge. We see the citizens of Water 7 trying to save the shipyard and the building, while CP9 starts trying to make their way to where they believe Cuddy Flam, aka Frankie, is.
Can I bring up a wonderful thing?
No.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Lucci puts his mask back on when talking to the Frankie family.
Yeah.
How many times, I mean, in my mind, I've done this a lot, but I'm sure I've done it with y'all. I've complained about characters who are in secrecy until they reveal it to the viewer, and then they're never back in secrecy again. I fucking hate it. And here we have Lucci in a very rare example of going against that. I think that's great.
Yeah, because I mean, it makes sense that I guess like you said, whenever the identity is revealed to the viewer, it's just like, oh, so I like most people we're gonna see on screen don't need to worry about that anymore.
Yeah.
But here he's he still has reason to keep this secret. So
yeah, love it.
So we eventually find out that Usopp has met Frankie, and they're just kind of shooting the shit. Usopp has told Frankie his story, and it kind of really hits Frankie hard.
Yeah.
And we're gonna probably learn a little bit more why later on. Not only is Frankie deep down, he has some good in him, but also I think some elements of Usopp's story probably resonate with Frankie for personal reasons.
It's important to note here that despite the fact that Frankie was the catalyst to Usopp falling apart, Usopp doesn't hold it against him.
Yeah.
But all he cares about is the Merry Safety, which is a really mature thing for the least mature Straw Hat, allegedly.
Yeah, and I wonder how much of it is just... Like, I do think it is because Usopp's #1 priority in the whole world right now is the Merry Go and its well-being, so he doesn't want to, fight Frankie right now. But also, I think, he's got to be emotionally drained after this arc, man. He is rock bottom.
It's like he doesn't even have it in him to be angry right now. He's just like, well, the Mary's safe. Yeah.
And Frankie's like, hey man, it's been rough, you're separated from your crew, but he's like, I'll take you on as an underling. Like you have a place here. And I really like Usopp's response to that. He's like, I may have quit my crew, but I'm still a pirate, because think of how his life's changed ever since he became a pirate and left his island. So I mean that's who he is now.
Yeah,
it's great. I don't know, their whole conversation is really fun. So Frankie begins talking a bit about the town, the history of Water 7, how it used to be a normal island. This Aqua Laguna, it's kind of a tide that comes each year, and it'll go up and it'll go down. However, it never goes down to the same amount it was before. Every year, the water level gets a little bit higher. And so we see, there used to be dry land and trees, and they used to actually be able to, get lumber from the island itself. And as it went on, the island got smaller. There was no land left. They had to buy shit from other islands, which was hard because you're in the fucking Grand Line.
Yeah.
And that kind of deteriorated the city. And it's almost an ongoing problem even, but the railroad obviously makes it a lot easier to deal with.
I very much like this because Oda thinks about the geography of his locations. He's not just making wacky locations. He's like, well, if this is a sinking city, can I explore anything about what that means? And the world building isn't just how islands interact with islands and characters interact with characters. I also think the internal consistency within the locations of One Piece, they're really good because he's making wacky locations but putting thought behind them. So they're both creative and fun, but also they feel material. They feel like a concrete place in the world.
And and we find out later in the flashback that happens later in this arc, but the development of Water 7 to where it is now feels very human because they weren't centric on the shipbuilding as they were beforehand. And it was through the efforts of Tom that kind of is what made their mark on the landscape. It made them more popular for tourism or whatever it is, and now people come get their ships here. So it kind of you see that evolution happen over this chapter. Yeah. So it really does feel like a city that you've seen had a story in itself, and you kind of it's the background of the flashback, but you still get to see it develop.
Yeah, I think it was in a fairly early episode of this that we kind of had a while where we just like gushed about the geography of One Piece and how I think specifically I was talking about like how genius the Grand Line is as a concept for the story structure. But each individual island itself is set up in a way that takes our characters through it in the way we want to go, and I don't know. Oda's really good at making story-centric geography.
Indeed.
So Frankie, the thing is, even let's say we talked about Kaku kind of reconfirming his assessment of the ship, and you know, that was a real bummer. But if there were maybe, let's say you have like a 10% doubt in your mind, like, okay, maybe he's still lying. Frankie here, who now has no reason to lie to Usopp, they're friends now. He's like, I'm sorry. Galilaw's assessment was correct. There's no fucking way this ship is gonna sink. And so, you know, Frankie's like, it sucks. You know, I'll help you out. I'll do you a favor. I'll help you take the ship apart. And we see Usopp does not want him to do this.
Leads us into the next chapter.
Yes, it's the next chapter. Klabautermann.
Yes.
Okay, this question corner was really fucking funny to me, where this person wrote a letter. I'm gonna read the reader's letter here.
Okay.
And I quote, "Yay, Plonk, putting on afro. Oh yeah, all right." From the reader named Egg. Oda's response. Okay, next. We're done here.
Oh my god.
He's like, yeah, okay. The question corners are always really fucking funny.
Great.
It's the one thing I'm missing from our current thing, because it goes out weekly, Bradley. It doesn't have the volume updates, so we don't get SBS until much later now.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well,
Yeah.
Klabautermann.
Yeah.
Yes. So the chapter opens up with a panel where we see Frankie's butt in his little Speedo.
Yeah.
Does he shave his thighs, you think?
One Piece characters don't have hairy thighs, I don't think.
I guess so.
They have hairy calves.
Yeah.
You're right. So yeah, he's like, okay, I'm gonna help you. He's like, I'm gonna help you dismantle your ship. Like you can't sail it anymore. And you know, Usopp's like, no, the Marigo's my ship, and Frankie's like, that thing isn't a ship anymore. And this is like really fucks up Usopp right here.
So, but
yeah,
this is the cruel philosophy of One Piece and ships, and I kinda like it. One Piece tries to be on the positive side of things sometimes, but like this idea that a ship can take you from shore to shore, but once it can't, it's no longer a ship. It is just a floating coffin, because now it's actively endangering your life. Like, ships are the only crewmate in One Piece that don't get to escape that fate. It's really harsh.
Yeah, and I think this conversation between Frankie and Usopp is really interesting, where he says that thing's not a ship anymore, because later on in this volume, when we get to the flashback, we'll get to hear words from Tom and his opinion on what makes a ship a ship.
Yeah.
So that whole, like you said, One Piece kind of has a philosophy about ships, and it's really interesting because, you know, over the course of most of this story, but I think especially starting around Alabasta, we've been talking about how Marigo is now less of an item or part of the setting, and it's more of a character in its own right.
Yeah.
And that is like multiplied. That sentiment's multiplied by 100 in this volume.
It's confirmed rather explicitly in this
Yeah,
chapter.
like straight up it.
But I really like this quote where every ship says to itself, "I'll get you from this shore here to that shore there. A ship that can no longer fulfill that purpose isn't a ship." Like, god damn.
In the very next panel after that, we see Frankie rip a huge chunk off the Marigo.
It hurts.
It was painful to see that, man, because
it's the Mary.
Stop this guy from destroying the ship, you know?
Somewhere along the line, Oda has tricked you into caring so much about this ship, and you didn't even notice when it happened. It was so good.
Yeah, like I never thought I would care about a, non-sentient pirate ship in a story, but holy shit.
I have a thing in my personal life where I really value vehicles. Like, I name every car I've owned because it is getting me from place to place, from shore to shore, and then they all die eventually in a road somewhere and explode.
Name for your new car, you'll have to let us know.
It's Hermes from JoJo's. So yeah, like, and Final Fantasy 15 is a game where the bond of the friends is represented by the car that they ride in. So I'm a sucker for vehicles as characters, personally.
Yeah, like that's a concept I had never even considered before One Piece, and I think in future stories that's something I'm gonna try to look for. So Frankie's tearing apart the merry-go, and Usopp hits him with a fire star, and I mean it actually knocks back Frankie. Obviously he's not seriously hurt, but
yeah,
I think it's cool that Usopp can move this person. Like, I don't know.
Once again, Usopp saying he's worthless can literally has huge crowd control on everything.
Like, right? The CC on this champion.
Yeah, man. So Frankie knocks him in Usopp into the water here, and I really like this page of like him like sinking down, like seeing the actual like it's literally him seeing the underbelly of the ship and understanding what's actually like happening.
It's heartbreaking, man.
It's him being forced to see the reality, and there's no dialogue in this page. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, he just zooms in on his eyes, and you can just see he's dead here, man.
That's one thing that I really like about Oda and his storytelling, and it happens in much later chapters, even now, where like there are moments where like he doesn't put anything on the page. He just uses the expressions and what's happening to really like show what's going on with the character's head. And it's really nice when we get that, because it feels more genuine than like Usopp going, "Oh no, he's right. The keel is actually broken. I can't fix the Mary." Like it makes the moment more
better.
powerful.
Yeah, we get the opposite. We get Usopp in pure denial here. Like,
yeah, he comes trying to fix it, and the Square Sisters are right there with us. They see him trying to fix it, and they start crying. It's just heartbreaking.
Yeah, this is rough.
And so Frankie, at this point, I think wants to help Usopp as a person. I think he realizes the grief Usopp's going through.
Not just about the ship anymore. Like, Usopp is not all right right now.
And I think we kind of realize one of the reasons Usopp has been getting so angry with this conversation is because he kind of knew all along that the merry-go, he's known it for a long time.
Yeah.
That the merry-go was done for, and he just didn't want it to admit it to himself. And everyone telling him that was just reinforcing his worst fear. And so now he has to accept that it's real.
Once again, that goes back to the symbolism of, Usopp feeling like he's getting left behind the crew strength-wise. So like he's finally realized.
It's all tied together, baby. So there was one mystery in Skypiea that I didn't want to bring attention to.
Yeah, and I'm very excited we learned about this, because that was the thing in Skypiea where I'm like, man, what the fuck was that?
Guess we'll never know, but we know now, and I love the answer. It is the first truly supernatural thing in One Piece, and as a sailing pirate story, I really like it.
Yeah, even something with like devil fruit powers and all this wacky stuff going on, this still feels like
it goes back to that, the idea of like pirate ships thing, and kind of like that ghost aspect, and like the idea of like having the figurehead being your guiding thing. That's your symbol, and that's the part that you have a woman usually out there that guides your way, and that's what this is. The
thing that's so fascinating about it is that One Piece has supernatural elements, but it explains them all. Even devil fruits, I believe we will get an explanation that is concrete for devil fruits, and it might still be like supernatural and mystical in some way, but it'll have an explanation. A Klabauter Man, I don't think ever will. It's going to be your ship gains a spirit from the care that you simultaneously give one another, and I think it's really it's a if there's going to be one big supernatural element of One Piece, a sailing story, I think this is a really good pick.
Yeah, I think this is one of those story elements that is so interesting precisely because of how fantastical it is, you know. And it was really cool, and like you said, this is what like hard confirms that the Merry Go is its own character. Usopp said, so it really was you who came and talked to me that night, wasn't it, Mary?
Yeah.
So I don't know, I just thought it was fun. I read that and I was like, wow, all of our talks about the Mary are real.
I've also subtly made you think more about the Mary throughout our talks. I don't know if you noticed me incepting on you, but I did.
It was a good call.
Yeah.
So at the end of this chapter, though, CP9 is about to show up, and that brings us into chapter 352, Tom's Workers.
And Kelfa with her high stockings. Said put those on.
Yeah, so, you know, Frankie and Usopp are still like, okay, you know, we got to figure out what to do about this boat. Square Sisters get...
So, time out. Before we start this chapter, I just want to point out something kind of interesting.
Okay.
In the title page for this chapter, who's in this title? Like, look who's in this title page.
Robin's in every title page in all of these volumes.
Yeah, she's in a few title pages in this volume, which
that,
made you think like she's not going anywhere.
And Usopp's in there too. Like, I just think it's interesting, and it goes back to that phrase that Paulie said, that I still feel like we're all comrades.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's just, I feel like Oda is still trying to make sure that we have this kind of sense of like, this is the ideal of what we want our crew to look like.
Yeah. The good times that happened in the past.
Yeah.
So I've been like 99.99% sure Usopp's gonna stick around. I've been like 65% sure Robin's gonna stick around. I'm a little more sure thanks to the title pages, but I'm not like sure.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see how that goes.
We will. Anyway, Square Sisters beat the fuck up.
Yeah, CP9 shows up, and they kind of get right to business. They're like, Cuddy Flam, Frankie, gives fucking blueprints, and I really want to get to the flashback arc, because, okay, this chapter, whatever, fuck it. They fight.
There's one thing I'll bring up about this chapter. I love Frankie's face when they tell him that Iceberg was killed. We haven't seen Frankie show this much emotion to Iceberg yet, because we don't know their past. But you can immediately tell that this is a big deal to him, more than we were led to believe initially.
Oh, I forgot a sticky note from the last chapter. The CP9 members talked to the members of the Frankie family to find out where this hideout was.
Yeah.
And then they, quote unquote, kill all of them. I put a sticky note on the page. I just wrote, no one died here.
Uh-oh. Did Bradley learn the trick? Shit.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I don't know. That was funny.
Actually died here.
So, you know, they're kind of trudging through the workshop looking for where the blueprints might be, and Frankie's like, hey, you know, these are my memories, like, you can't just do this shit. And they find a picture of a young Frankie, a young Iceberg, and a alive Tom.
Smash cut to Bradley saying we wouldn't get our Iceberg flashback.
I think it's interesting about so you have, for the past 2 or 3 chapters, what's his name? Frankie basically berating Usopp about the sentimentality of this ship.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, he literally has their entire like workstation in his back closet.
Hypocrites are great, man. I love them.
Yeah. I think there's quite a few aspects of things Frankie has said this volume that are a little hypocritical, and I think a big part of this arc coming out of the flashback arc will be kind of Frankie remembering the lessons he learned from his friends Tom and Iceberg, and hopefully triumphing. I don't know. When
Tom got revealed to you from this picture, did you have any thoughts about his species or anything?
The what got revealed to me?
Tom. Were you able to tell he's a fish man?
Yeah.
Not immediately. Fortunately, very early on in the flashback, we learned he was a fish man.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't look at his hands.
Did you see anyone else that's recognizable in that picture?
There's Kokoro.
And the frog as well.
And the frog.
Oh my god, that's the frog from the trap.
Yeah.
Remember when that frog was like fighting the train and Joe was like, huh, I wonder why that frog's fighting the train.
Oh, that's sad now.
I love it.
It's like he's trying to get his master out of the train that took him away.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's jump into this flashback.
Let's go.
Now I'm sad.
One Piece. One Piece.
What?
Oh my god. Oh.
Yeah, we get Bradley crying live. Let's
I'm tearing
go.
up, I didn't even
Yeah.
realize. Holy fuck.
And now he has all those scars on his body. So, like Laboon, he's been doing this for years.
Oh, you can't do that to animals. And you can do whatever you want to people, but you can't hurt animals, man.
Oh.
God. Okay, that's fucked up. Okay.
Anyways, so we open up next chapter, and there's still scuffling and everything. And they basically tie Frankie up, and they seal the book.
How you feeling about Khalifa, Bradley?
Yeah.
I think you know how I feel about it, baby.
Cool. All right, just checking.
She's basically Anko, but doesn't get turned into Chanko.
Yeah.
So they basically say they're calling, Tom a criminal, and it's like, you were affiliated with him, you've committed crimes, and Frankie's very, very angry that they called Tom a criminal, which is going to lead into our flashback arc. And it's funny, at the end of our last One Piece talk, I was like, fuck it, let's peek at the next volume. And I looked at the spine, and I saw like almost half of it was a flashback arc.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. Here. So the flashback starts. We see 22 years ago, the city of Water 7, and we see a young Cuddy Flam, Frankie.
Remember this time, 22 years ago.
Yes. We see Iceberg, so we know he's 4 years older than Frankie.
Mm-hmm.
Frankie was just coming off one of his experiments, making one of his little battleships, and he crashes into
Frankie's
Island. I like his little boats that he makes.
Yeah, they look cool.
I love his little boats. I love Frankie's whole backstory.
Frankie.
Yeah.
Tom is a Chad. Chad number 3.
Tom is the ultimate Chad. Like, when they call him a legendary shipwright, they are not fucking kidding. He throws the ship into the air and then chucks 3 masts into it accurately, and it falls into the water.
It's like the level of dumb of when Rohan from JoJo's is shooting ink shurikens to finish his pages. I love it.
So, and then we learned he is a long-horned cowfish fishman.
Yeah.
That's cool. And we meet Yokozuna the frog, who
is irrelevant, like he won't come back. It's cool.
I didn't even make that connection.
That's what we're here for, baby.
Yeah.
Man, I'm really glad we do this podcast.
Oh no, that was the frog.
Yeah, so our boys go back with Tom to HQ. Kokoro's there. Her face is the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. So they do some little conversations here that are interesting. Tom talks kind of about what makes a ship, because Iceberg kind of thinks Frankie's ships are
weapons, pure weapons.
Yeah, they're weapons,
and that's dangerous to indiscriminately make weapons.
Yeah, and so Frankie learns about Tom making Gold Roger's ship, and he's like, oh, tell me about the blueprints for that pirate ship. And he's like, there's no blueprints for a pirate ship. He's like, you can make the form of a boat, but what makes something a pirate ship is that it is flying a skull and crossbones.
Ooh, nice.
He's like, as long as you have that like you're there. And that's really cool, because I think back to Frankie arguing with Usopp. Usopp's determined to keep this merry-go flying his Jolly Roger afloat. And Frankie's like, no, that's not a ship anymore. And I think that's really interesting.
I also the merry-go is not a pirate ship. It was a commercial vessel that Kaya's parents used.
And Tom is right. It became a pirate ship.
And it got a soul because of flying that flag. So, as we go through this flashback, Tom has a very neutral stance on building ships, which is very interesting. While Iceberg has a very careful stance of like, weapons are dangerous and you need to account for them. And it goes back to a volume or two ago why Iceberg was so serious about the Pluton and Robin, because they're both weapons and he has a past with this idea of a weapon. So it's really cool linking those up.
And then another thing to keep in mind, Bradley, what Tom says here is a very strong theme through all of One Piece. The idea of something's not innately something else. It's not innately a pilot ship. So I just want you to keep that idea in mind moving forward for the rest of the series, basically.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
And then we finish off this chapter by learning that because first of all, we find out that there's a judicial ship that has a courthouse in it.
Cool ass concept.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. And Tom is to be executed for building Gold Roger's ship. Oh, man, I want to see that ship. Probably sounds like it's probably really, really cool.
Sounds like it.
Yep.
Gets me thinking.
Gets you thinking.
Well,
actually, you've seen either a fleet ship.
Ooh.
Right? This isn't Joe. Help me out here.
Ooh.
A fleet ship?
Do we know? We don't. All right, let's. Never mind.
Yeah.
SBS corner. 2 people ask for Nami and Robin's measurements, and Oda's kind of mad. He's like fuck, so many questions about this. He's like, okay, I'm just gonna end it once and for all. Here's their measurements. Robin is 6'2". She's a
tall girl.
That's a tall girl.
She
Nami's
doesn't look like it a lot of the time.
So yeah, Oda's like, okay, I'm just gonna sell this once and for all, so people stop asking. We get their measurements.
Well, Sanji got it for us, right? I think the joke.
The chapter art is Chopper judo flipping a bear man, which is fun.
Shit looks rad.
I'm sure that's canon. So this next chapter, Sea Train, we get the trial, and we learn that Tom is going to have 10 years to create the Sea Train, which is kind of the hope of Water 7. Because, Water 7's a drowning city. They're just struggling because they can't produce their own materials anymore. And the ships they do produce is hard to ship because you're in the Grand Line. You have to have all these logs and shit like that. So this train is kind of their last hope. The official's like, okay, you know what? If you can build the train, you'll be pardoned.
I like that. So there you go. A world official that's actually pretty fair.
Yeah, he's like, okay, this would objectively improve the lives of
multiple islands.
People.
Yeah.
So
I think, do they say that he's going to be pardoned? I think they just said it's a 10-year stay.
They say you'll be executed in 10 years.
Oh yeah, it's a 10-year stay.
But as we get further in the flashback, they properly pardon him eventually, and then shit happens.
I love this montage of them building the boat. It's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, this montage is great.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also cool because Frankie wasn't into it at first, because he's mad that why would you get in trouble for building that? But eventually he gets into it, and then they're all working hard together, and it's 2 whole pages of no dialogue. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Before this spread, there's this one panel of Frankie with the frog, and they're doing swimming lessons. I just thought that was a cute panel.
Also, we get this reveal that Frankie was just left behind by some pirates, so he's just kind of a dirt orphan that Tom takes in.
Good man, that Tom.
Oh yeah.
So we end up kind of skipping forward 10 years, and before we see the status of the train, we get to see the status of Water 7, and it's really sad. Someone tried to kill themselves just because the economy's so bad, and this guy, in a last-ditch effort to make money so his shipbuilding company doesn't die, he sent men out to sea and he lost 50 of them.
Yeah.
And you just see this like broken down city with barbed wire and it says keep out. And you have people drinking in the bar with their heads buried in their hands, and it's really sad. You just, if we didn't nail home how the train is the last hope for Water 7 till now, you can really see it. Because whenever they see Tom and his boys coming back, everyone comes out and they're like, is it finally gonna run? Like, is this it? And you know what?
It's just really cool that we've seen modern Water 7, and it looks great. Like it's really healthy now.
Yeah, like I got the vibe that modern Water 7 is like a place to be, you know?
Did you notice, like, right now you can see there's the panel on page 16 in the top right corner. There's still a hint of the land still showing up from underneath the Water 7, whereas now it's submerged.
You get more of a feel for the passage.
Couple of little cameos. Did you catch Polly, Kiwi, and Mozu?
I saw Polly. I didn't notice the other ones, but
Kiwi and Mozu are in the train in this panel where it's like it might be their dad and they're both smiling.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Oh,
cute.
Man, that's cool.
Cute.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Where's Polly? Is he the
Polly's in the page before. He's wearing his usual
little goggles? Yeah.
That's cool.
Tilestone is also somewhere in these pages. Yeah, he's so there's the one with Polly. 2 panels to the right of that. One of those, or no, it's not Tilestone. It's the head of the Frankie family, the one below Frankie with the spiky hair. I think Zambo or something is his name. But yeah, he's there as well.
And I love our boys' reactions to the trains. You know, Tom's just like ho ho ho, and Frankie is like, you know, just bombastic, and you know, Iceberg is just so overcome with emotion that he cries. And
Iceberg's great.
So what's interesting is like. I can't. Sorry, I was gonna bring something up, but it's gonna spoil something that happens in later the chapter. I'll have to put a pin in it because there's something ironic about the train that comes up later.
Cool, pin it.
With Polly. Yeah, I'm gonna text it to you.
Okay. Yep. That brings us to chapter 355, Spandam.
Yes.
So the ship is running. We see it hauling lumber, which is like one of the really big things they wanted it to do. You know, it's been 10 years since the initial verdict, and the judicial ship is going to come back. We see that a CP5 officer has showed up because he wants to talk to Tom. Then the next page, we see that Frankie has not given up on his dream of making a battleship that can kill a Neptunian. Battle Frankie number 35, he finally bagged a Neptunian, which is kind of fucking impressive for such a small boat.
Yeah, it was a big one too. By the way, I don't know if I've said this, but the translation for Neptunians that is actually correct is Sea Kings.
Oh, okay.
So if you ever see Sea Kings, that's what they're referring to. It's like the weirdest translation aside from Zolo.
Yeah, the way I've seen it being broken down is that Neptune and like Sea King are basically are the same kanji character, essentially. Mm. So when they were making them, that's what they went with, Neptunians. Okay. Yeah.
Anywho.
Yeah. So this CP5 officer, he wants to talk to Tom. He is looking for the blueprints to the Pluton, and Tom's not going to give it up. He's like, oh, well, I'll just tell the government that you helped build Gold Roger's ship. He's like, they've known that for over a decade.
Yeah. So
he's
Spandam
like,
is failing.
He's like, they actually, you know, held off on executing me.
I love how Spandam's introduction is just a fucking joke.
Yeah.
Because we get these title cards for these characters, and they show in the kind of like Kojima production stuff, and usually it's like the full body of like who this person is. So you have a good shot of like, oh, this is who this person is. Yeah. Spandam, and he's being shot at, he's dying.
Yeah.
So yeah, we learned a little bit about the world government and this officer in particular, Spandam, where, you know, to him, if someone has committed a crime, it's there is no pardoning it. He's like, no, like, you did the crime, you do the time, and it doesn't matter that a world government official pardoned it.
Yeah.
So he will see will sacrifice innocent people if it means bringing in someone that he thinks needs to be brought in.
Spandam, he does some shitty things here, but it's like he's got an absolute justice. That's kind of the way he views justice, and it leads to him doing bad things.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
I appreciate that, to not make him completely two-dimensional and not just being a complete asshole. He's like a 97% asshole.
Yeah, like Oda could have made him worse because at the end of the day, he is doing this out of a sense of justice, not just like a fuck this guy.
Yeah.
So they Oda could have made him more evil. So
hey, look, the Five Elders.
Yeah, we all seen them before.
Yeah. There was something we didn't touch on really quickly that I think is kind of important for Frankie's character. Very early in this flashback, Frankie, when he's building the battleships, Frankie's like, "I'm going to make a battle Frankie that can get a Neptunian," and in this chapter, he does it. So you can see this thing of progress that Frankie is getting better at making these things.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we see the Five Elders, who we've met before, back in like one of the coolest interludes of One Piece.
Jaya interlude.
Yeah, that shit was really cool. They say the shit where they're like, it's not enough that we just need to keep the ancient weapon from reactivating. We fly the banner of justice. We must have the strongest weapons in the world at our disposal. And I was like, yeah, I bet you believe that too.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think he really believes that no one else can have this weapon because it needs to be used for justice. And he doesn't realize that the justice it might be used for is an evil.
Yeah, I think like his duty to the world government and his sense of justice is so strong that he doesn't understand the risk that might come with the world government having these. And didn't Iceberg and Robin have this same kind of debate?
Yeah, a little bit.
So it's a really compelling question, both in the story and it's relevant to real life in ways. So
let's see where the story takes the question.
Yeah. So Tom's doing his march to the judicial ship, and everyone's like, he's obviously going to be pardoned. And at that moment, the fleet of Battle Frankies attack. That's the funny sentence. The fleet of Battle Frankies attack the courthouse, and the thing that Iceberg feared all along came true. People used these inventions of Frankie for bad. And it's interesting where Iceberg and Tom have had very differing views on ships where, Iceberg is like, if you make these things and they end up hurting someone, he's like, that should be on you. Whereas Tom is like, no, when you make this thing, it's neutral. It's about what people do with it,
Yeah.
So I think they both get to explore their side of the argument, and I don't think the story pushes too hard in either direction, saying which one.
Frankie's the other direction where he's careless about it. He's like, I'm just gonna make stuff.
Like you look at the very beginning of this chapter, he was just using it to hunt sea monsters, and now at the end of the chapter, it's being used to stage a fake terrorist attack, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, Frankie's like on the dangerously opposite side of Iceberg, where Iceberg might be too strict about it. Frankie's careless where he leaves these out where anyone can get it. Mm-hmm. Tom's like, making these things doesn't make you a bad person. Using them would make you a bad person, but it's like, also maybe don't leave battleships laying out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Trust people.
Lock your car.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
Robin.
So, they attack the courthouse, and then Spandam's like, "Oh yeah, now time to let the trial begin." So he framed Tom. Chapter 356. Woo! Mr. Tom. Yay.
Robin on ostrich.
So yeah, the fleet attacked. We saw them kind of try to stop the fleet. Iceberg and Mr. Tom get hurt by Frankie's ships. Iceberg, scolds them a little bit. And here's the interesting. Iceberg is kind of putting Frankie on blast about the responsibility of making dangerous ships, about how it's dangerous for these things to even exist. It's dangerous for there to even be the possibility to bring these weapons into existence. And this made me wonder, one thing we don't quite know yet is where the blueprints for the Pluton ended up. The CP9 people, they come to find Frankie, and he's like, you're not going to find the blueprints here. They're not here. By the end of this volume, we still don't know where they are. I'm almost wondering if this experience hit Frankie hard enough that he destroyed the blueprints. Even Tom himself is like, hey, if it comes down to it, don't be afraid to just throw these shits away. And if this experience didn't hammer home to him how, terrible it could be for people to get their hands on the wrong weapons are, I don't know what would. So,
isn't that interesting? It's like Tom has been preaching this whole thing about it's basically, it's not about if you make it or not, it's about how someone uses it. But the Pluton's different. Like Tom looks at it and is very much aware, like, if this gets built, there's a big possibility something bad happens.
Yeah.
He's preaching this and he believes in it, but he's also not blind. He's like, well, maybe not this one.
Like, hold on.
People to lock your car.
I'll give this prediction like a coin flips chance on whether the blueprints are destroyed by now. And the idea of these blueprints floating around being something that people are fighting for is very juicy, for taking action later on. But also, I think it might be, character appropriate that they're destroyed. I wouldn't be mad either way. I think both possibilities are very juicy. But I just wanted to throw that possibility out there.
I like it. We'll touch on that.
Yeah. And Iceberg is really goddamn mad at Frankie. He says, I'm never going to forgive you as long as I live. And we've seen in the current day, they're not necessarily friends.
But so, Frankie cries basically over finding out that Iceberg was killed.
Yeah. I think it's also interesting because based on like just from what we've seen so far of Iceberg, there's almost kind of like this sadness about Frankie and Iceberg that Iceberg is like holding. Like it's a relationship that he had that he's now severed, and it's kind of still there, kind of like a wound that's itching at him.
They live in the same town. They do business together sometimes.
He knows Frankie's dangerous enough to tell people like don't mess with Frankie and all this other kind of stuff. And like I think Iceberg, like when he had the galley lockup, he could have driven Frankie's business out of town, but he didn't. Like there's Iceberg is got to the point. Yeah.
It's like, you have bad blood with someone, but you both still live in the same city, and your businesses are both still there, and it's like, what am I going to do about that?
Yeah.
So, this next chapter... Well, no,
next chapter. I was about to say...
Yeah, they brought to the judge, and he's like, why would you do this? You were obviously going to get pardoned. They're arguing like, oh, we were set up and shit. So Tom is actually very calm during this whole thing. And we find out he's a fucking beast, and he really could have broken out of his restraints anytime he wanted.
He has a spear through his heart right now, and he's doing this.
Yeah. So it's really interesting when all these people putting him on blast. The part where he decides to break out of his restraints are when Frankie yells that those are not my ships anymore. He's like, I don't want to acknowledge them. And Tom's like, what the fuck? He hits Frankie, and based on some of the stuff he says, I imagine that if Tom was there in that conversation between Frankie and Usopp before the flashback, I bet Tom would have been
mad at Frankie.
Knuckle sandwiches there too. I don't think he's learned his lesson.
I think this doesn't fully finish the flashback. I don't think this volume.
No,
there's like one chapter left, I think, that has it in the flashback.
Yes. Okay. Right. But I think it's clear to say that Frankie has a tremendous amount of guilt for what he did still.
Oh yeah.
And so much so that Frankie's not a shipwright today. He's a dismantler.
That was what I was going to bring up.
He destroys ships. He does not make ships. He is too afraid of making things anymore.
He's the complete opposite of what he was previously now.
And we talked about Theseus' ship with how much can you replace a ship and how much is left.
Yeah.
What I didn't bring up back then is that Frankie is a Theseus ship. He is a cyborg who had to replace pieces of himself. And we're seeing now that he's still holding on to this grudge. He never got past it. Is he still fully human? Maybe is something that you could consider.
Ooh, that's so good.
It's really good. I only realized it when we talked.
Will and I had a breakdown.
And we even see, like, if we want to draw more parallels, I was saying that Frankie really resonating with Usopp's story probably resonated with him for personal reasons, and though the circumstances are wildly different, both of them kind of got split from their comrades because of ships they were involved with.
It's the idea of, like, I'm part of this crew. So, like, another big theme in Water 7 in One Piece is the idea of the crew. In Japanese, it's called nakama, which is someone closer than family. Yeah, basically. And it's the idea that this is a group of people that brought me in, and I feel connected to them, and I have now, in one form or another, cut ties with them. And how do I?
I didn't cut ties with them. I ruined it. I destroyed it by making my weapons.
Yeah.
And when Frankie's looking at the Mary and looking at a boat, he's like, I can't do to a boat what I did to my own body. I can go on living as this weird Theseus ship monstrosity, but I can't do that with a ship. It needs to be dismantled. It's kind of tragic.
And we see Tom's, like, speech on ships, and I might just read the whole thing where he says there's nothing good and nothing bad in shipbuilding. Or no, in shipbuilding a ship, no matter what kind of ship it is. I don't care what kind of ships you build from now on, but no matter who gets injured by the ships you build, even if it looks like they'll destroy the world, you're the one who gave them life. You at least have to love them. The one who created them must not deny them. Don't blame the ships. Man.
And let's not forget that we just introduced the concept of a ship's soul. So this is like, at least if no one else cares about your ship, you need to, at least, because they could become beings.
So yeah, we're not giving up on the merry-go. Like, we're good.
Alright, so one thing that one thing that really sticks out to me in this whole speech is that you're the one that gave them life. You at least have to love them.
Yeah.
And you're the one that created them. You can't deny them. This is going to come up later. I just want you to keep that in mind. This is going to be about Joe's thesis of why he loves the Water 7 saga so much.
Ooh, ready.
Yeah, so just get ready in the next thousands of years when we finally get to that point. But hey, don't worry about it.
I'm very excited.
Same.
57, Cuddy Flam. The chapter art has a big-ass giraffe breathing on Nami's neck.
Yeah, it does.
It's interesting.
What's also interesting in this picture is that Robin is separated. Like, she's not very, like, the thing about Robin.
No, you're reaching here. She's just sitting there. She's always aloof.
That's true. I feel like in this picture she was always felt more separated, but that might have been just because of the time.
Hey Bradley, that word Mugiwara pirates.
I was about to ask about that.
Straw hat.
Okay. I would be like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
I assume that Oda actually drew those letterings in, which is why they can't replace them.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So we go into chapter whatever I said a minute or two ago. And, Tom's like, okay, don't stop me at what I'm about to do. He starts fucking everybody up. Number one, he hits the CP5 officer because fuck you. Well, also because he's like, the pain you caused Frankie by using his ships to pull this stunt, he's like, I cannot forgive you for that. And then Tom gets shot, and I'm like, oh my god, someone died on screen, and like, oh, it's tranquilizer bullets.
Well, hold on. Flashbacks are not One Piece. We have so many people die in flashbacks.
Yeah.
But not this one, right? Serves you right, mighty fish man. That's what Mr. Man says. I'm
Mr.
like,
Man.
that's racist.
Yeah, well, actually, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I imagine a lot of people probably don't like fishmen a whole lot.
Actually, yes.
If your average fishman is anything like Arlong's crew, people are probably really not fans of them.
Whoa, now that's racist. Whoa, hold
Yeah.
up. Relax.
Well, I said if the average fishman is like them, which they are. Fuck fishmen.
Oh, that's gonna be a fun arc.
I can't wait.
Tom does a really clever plan here.
Yeah.
You know, he fucks up these guys, and he says, "Okay, so you know what you're saying is the deal is kind of if one full crime gets forgiven by the creation of the sea train, then I want you to forgive the crime that I did today." And they're like, okay, why would you do that? You're gonna get executed no matter what crime it is. And he's like, because here's the thing, I'm proud of what I did. I'm proud that I aided Gold Roger.
What a cool guy.
That was already cool as fuck. I'm like, wow, what a fucking gangster. But number two, this was genius because if he eliminates the crimes that they did today, they can't touch Iceberg and Frankie
Yeah.
because that crime doesn't exist in the eyes of the law anymore. Now we're just back to the building Gold Roger ship crime.
It's just so cool. It's like, if I'm gonna go down, I am proud. Like, I didn't say it earlier because I was trying to get off the hook, but I am proud for
Going
building Roger's ship.
Boss.
Yeah.
Tom's up there with
so-
one of the best people.
They start carting away Tom on the train. Frankie's like, no, and he hits people in the face.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he does. They're taking him away on the train. It's really sad. Frankie comes out with a fucking bazooka, which is awesome. And this bazooka kind of confused me. He shoots it and two balls come out, and it looks like one's off to the side. I don't know what's going on here.
It's not off to the side. I don't know if you've noticed, but One Piece guns are bullshit. They're flintlock pistols that can shoot semi-automatic. Just putting it out there. But also,
Okay.
I'm guessing it's shooting two simultaneous projectiles. Like, it's like a blunderbuss where it can shoot multiple.
The way I read this, I saw this panel was that he fires and it recoils slightly to the right. So the first one goes out and then the next one's to the right.
Yeah.
So it's like boom, boom. You
Right.
know?
They seem simultaneous. I don't know. One Piece guns, man, don't even try. Don't.
No,
Well, one
I had the
further ahead of the other one.
idea, but I could also see the recoil.
Yeah.
I was just like, what the fuck?
Also, isn't it interesting that now he's trying to destroy the thing they spent 10 years to build?
It's
Like-
heartbreaking. Actually.
Yeah, like this was the thing that was supposed to get Tom off the hook, and now it doesn't even matter anymore to Frankie. Like, it's just pointless.
Yeah. So he says, stop, sea train. He's yelling at the sea train, and he's holding it back with his own fucking muscles, and makes me sad because it reminds me of the frog again.
Frog's
Yeah.
even there. He's the one that dropped Frankie off.
No way?
Yeah, in the see with the bazooka.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh
So-
man.
I don't know. It's just Frankie kind of ends the volume by saying, someday I want to build a dream ship that can sail to the ends of the world with pride.
Oh no, Frankie has a dream. Oh shit. And a
Oh,
flashback?
wait. We know about dreams.
Uh-oh.
Don't give it up.
Hi, Toriko.
Yeah, that's fine.
There was something else I wanted to talk about for this flashback.
It's too bad,
Number one.
Joe.
I know. I love this flashback. It's one of my favorites in One Piece.
It's the most interesting, but it's one of the less sad ones. Because Frankie actually has some guilt here. And because of that, it's more tragic, but less like, it's not like Nami where it's like, oh my god, everything bad happened to you, and Chopper.
Nami's flashback was tragic AF.
But I think
Yeah.
it's such an interesting one because it has Roger. Tom is so interesting as a character. Frankie and Iceberg's dynamic is really interesting throughout the whole flashback. I love it.
We just learn a lot about the world in this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
good.
It's
So-
just a good flashback, man.
I didn't have any other volumes, so that's the one I read. Willer, I'm sure, would be happy to bring me more One Piece.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it here in a little bit. I think I have one chapter in the last volume.
Oh, I'm really upset. I had something else I want to talk about. I know Willard took the one about the Theseus ship and everything. Because God, there was something else I wanted to talk about. I'm really upset. I can't remember.
The idea of Frankie as a Theseus ship is really ship of Theseus. The idea of Frankie as a Theseus ship is really interesting, and I'm mad I didn't think of it, but I'm glad you.
It's gonna be even more apparent. I mean, he got hit by a train. I think you could piece together what's about to happen next, and yeah,
You got Ford smashed.
disgraced. All right, we're good, Joe. You can save it for next time if you remember it.
Yeah, I hope so.
We gotta
Peace. Everyone, your homework is to email pictures of Nami to our email, theroundaboutcast@gmail.com.
If that'll get people to, I mean, I'll take anything. Do it. All right, have a good night, everyone, or a good morning. You might be listening to this on your commute to work.
Good afternoon.
Bye. Every time period is accounted for.